If there is one concept that has a far-reaching impact in cross-border taxation, that is permanent establishment or PE. What is a permanent establishment? It is a concept that is mainly used to determine the right of a source country to tax the business profits of a foreign enterprise. Business of a foreign entity shall be taxable only in the resident state unless such foreign enterprise has a PE in the source state and profits are attributable to such PE. In today's video, we will discuss and understand the concept of permanent establishment, various types of PE, and the exclusions from the definition of PE. PE is broad and an ever-evolving concept. This module is intended to just give you a flavor, and hopefully it piques your interest to study and learn this further. So let's get started. We are at Module 3 and we will discuss and understand PE at a high level. If you are new here, please do watch the earlier modules to get an introduction to the tax treaties and tools for its interpretation. We saw the structure of a typical treaty in the previous module. Definitions under a tax treaty can be found in Article 3, 4, 5 and other articles where specific terms are defined. Permanent establishment is defined under Article 5. The concept of a PE is a narrower version of the concept of business connection, which is found in the Indian Income Tax Act. In addition, existence of PE could also impact taxability of other types of income in the source state, such as the salary taxation, income from immobile property, dividend, interest, royalties, etc. Once a PE comes into existence, the foreign company shall also be exposed to related compliance, such as obtaining the tax registration, filing tax returns, and undertaking withholding tax obligation, etc. in the source state. What are the typical components of a PE article? Typically found in Article 5 of any tax treaty. For ease of reference, we have taken the OECD Model Convention 2017 for today's discussion. Article 5.1 provides the definition under what is popularly called the Basic Rule PE. Article 5.2 mentions several examples of a fixed place of business which automatically constitute a fixed place PE. These examples could also be said to form the positive list. Article 5.3 seeks to include certain construction or installation related activities if such activities continue for a certain period. Some treaties include provision of services involving physical presence for a certain period, popularly called the service PE. This is a concept borrowed from the UN Model Convention. These items may sometimes form part of Article 5.2 itself in some treaties. Article 5.4 mentions that a PE shall not be triggered when the activities of the foreign enterprise are restricted to the activities that are not core activities but are more of preparatory or auxiliary in nature. These could be said to form the negative list. Article 5.5 and 5.6 stipulates the rules for trigger of a dependent agent PE. Article 5.7 and 5.8 sets out rules in respect of related enterprises. The structure of the PE article implies that there are several types of PE and requires satisfaction of certain conditions under each type. Further, you may note that even if one of the types of PE is triggered, the consequences shall apply. Let's say Amazon US undertakes certain business activities in India. It could carry out its activities through an office. Alternatively, it could just have few of its employees sent to India to carry out the work. Or Amazon US may appoint an agent in India who helps with some sales related activities. Whether a PE is triggered in these circumstances? The answer may be a yes or a no. Undertaking PE evaluation involves a detailed factual inquiry and sometimes could be a subjective exercise. Types of PE can broadly be classified into a fixed place PE, service PE and a dependent agent PE. We will go through each of these and understand the concept in the coming slides. Let us start with the fixed place PE, and for this I request Sumana to take us through the relevant provisions.
As per Article 5.1, a fixed place PE is a fixed place of business through which the business of a foreign enterprise is wholly or partly carried on. Thus, a fixed place PE is triggered upon existence of a place of business, such as a facility or premises, or in certain instances, machinery or equipment. Such place need not be a place owned or rented by the foreign enterprise. It is sufficient that a certain amount of place is available for the foreign enterprise to carry on its business. For example, a small cabin or any workstation in a client's premises is sufficient to satisfy this condition, provided the foreign enterprise has such place at its disposal. Whether a location is at the disposal of a foreign enterprise or not is a fact-specific exercise and depends on various facts such as enterprise's effective power to use that location, extent of presence and control over the premises, and activities performed in such premises. No formal or legal right to use that place is therefore required. Thus, a PE could exist even where an enterprise illegally occupies a certain location. Further, mere intermittent or incidental presence cannot meet the requirement of a premises being at the disposal. Such place of business must be fixed, that is, it must be established at a distinct place with a certain degree of permanence. Mere presence of a temporary nature is not sufficient. What is the threshold to establish permanence? Normally, commentaries consider a period of 6 months as an indicator of permanence. However, it may be as less as a week's presence in a year, provided such presence is recurring every year and a week's presence is considered to meet the degree of permanence with regard to the subject business activity. This is decided by Supreme Court in case of Formula One World Championship decision. Lastly, business activity should be carried on through such fixed place. Business activity is generally understood as a core activity pertaining to income generation. A PE begins as soon as the business activity is commenced by a foreign enterprise and ends as soon as the business activity permanently stops. Thus, carrying on business activity through fixed place of business is an essential requirement. The activity may have certain interruptions, but it must be carried on a regular basis to constitute a fixed place PE. Where a fixed place of business satisfies all the above conditions but is merely used for carrying on activities which are preparatory or auxiliary in nature, then fixed place PE does not arise. What activities are preparatory or auxiliary in nature shall be discussed further. Article 52 specifically includes certain establishments within the ambit of PE such as place of management, branch, office, factory, workshop, mine, oil or gas quarry, or any other place of extraction of natural resources. This list is merely illustrative and not exhaustive. Further, these places of business should first satisfy the features of a fixed place period with exclusions under Article 5.4. A subsidiary, though not included in the above list, is not treated differently from them. The existence of a subsidiary does not by itself constitute that subsidiary a PE of its parent company. This is on the premise that a subsidiary is always an independent legal entity apart from its parent. Even the fact that the trade or business carried on by the subsidiary company is managed by the parent company does not constitute the subsidiary company a PE of the parent company. Article 5.4 lists a number of business activities which are treated as exception to the general rule. These activities, which are preparatory or auxiliary in nature, does not trigger a PE even if the other conditions are satisfied. These activities are use of facilities for storage, display or delivery of goods, maintenance of stock of goods solely for storage, display or delivery, maintenance of stock of goods solely for processing by another enterprise, maintenance of fixed place for purchasing merchandise or for collecting information, or for carrying out activities of preparatory or ancillary character, or solely for any combination of the above activities, provided the overall activity of fixed place of business resulting from this combination is of preparatory or ancillary nature. The exclusion for preparatory or auxiliary activity from triggering PE has an exception, which is known as anti-fragmentation rule, inserted pursuant to recommendation from OECD BEPS action. As per this rule, if activities of foreign enterprise when combined with a closely related entity exceeds preparatory or auxiliary activity threshold, exclusion shall not apply. Another type of PE, a construction PE or an installation PE, is a subset of fixed place PE. Article 5.3 expressly provides that a building site or a construction or an installation project constitutes a PE only if it lasts more than 12 months. The term installation project is not restricted to an installation related to a construction project. It also includes the installation of new equipment such as a complex machine in an existing building or outdoors. The term building site or construction or installation project includes not only the construction of building but also the construction of roads, bridges or canals, the renovation involving more than mere maintenance or redecoration of buildings, roads, bridges or canals, the laying of pipelines and excavation and dredging. The 12-month test, which is a duration test for a construction PE, applies to each individual site or project. In determining how long the site or project has existed, no account should be taken of the time previously spent by the contractor concerned on other sites or projects which are totally unconnected with it. A building site should be regarded as a single unit even if it is based on several contracts, provided that it forms a coherent whole commercially and geographically. A site exists from the date on which the contractor begins his work, including any preparatory work in the country where the construction is to be established. For example, wherever he installs a planning office for the construction, the duration should be included. In general, it continues to exist until the work is completed or it is permanently abandoned. A site should not be regarded as ceasing to exist when the work is temporarily disconnected. Seasonal or other temporary interruptions should be included in determining the life of a site. Seasonal interruptions include interruptions due to bad weather. Temporary interruptions could be caused, for example, by shortage of material or labor difficulties or COVID outbreak, etc. While computing the threshold, subcontractors' time spent on the project, site, etc. should also be included.
Thank you, Sumana. We will now move on to the concept of service PE. It is not found in the OECD Model Convention, but present in the UN Model Convention. If you want to know more about what these conventions and their significance are, please watch our video on Module 2. Link is provided here. If a foreign enterprise provides services in another country through its employees or other personnel, wherein such employee or personnel is physically present beyond a particular threshold of days, it will result in the creation of a service PE for the foreign enterprise. Service PE can exist even in the absence of a fixed place PE. Firstly, there shall be provision of services. The residential status of the service provider and the service recipient are irrelevant. A head office rendering services to its branch cannot trigger a service PE. Likewise, stewardship activities, that is, when the employees of a foreign enterprises are present in another country to protect their own interests, also do not trigger service PE, as it will be seen as a service to oneself. Nature of activities is not relevant as long as there is provision of services. That is, exclusion for activities or services of the nature preparatory and auxiliary, like in the case of a fixed place PE, is not available here. Certain treaties, for example in the context of India, namely the India-US Treaty or India-UK Treaty, specifically exclude services covered under Article 12, that is the fees for technical services or fees for included services, from the ambit of service PE article. In such a case, service PE article extends only to those nature of services other than those services falling under the ambit of a FTS or a FIS article, except where such FTS or FIS is attributable and effectively connected with a PE in the source state. If such explicit condition does not exist in a treaty, there arises a conflict and hence would need to be resolved based on a harmonious interpretation. Secondly, service should be furnished through employees or other personnel who are physically present in the source country. Other personnel here means personnel who work under the direction, control and supervision of the foreign enterprise and can include employees of other organization, example employees of a subcontractor. Thirdly, the duration of physical stay shall meet the prescribed threshold. Typically, service PE is constituted if services are furnished for a period exceeding 6 months. This threshold can vary from treaty to treaty. In computing the threshold, calendar days should be considered and not man days. For example, if 3 employees from foreign enterprises are present in India for 30 days in May 2020, it will be computed as 30 days and not 90 days. Typically, weekends, holidays and temporary interruptions such as personal vacation during the tenure of the service shall not be excluded from computing the threshold. However, if the leave precedes or succeeds the employment, such period can be ignored. For example, let's say Mr. X has been deputed on-site to US to work at the client's location by his Indian employer, wherein the period of assignment is 16th August 2019 to 31st January 2020. However, Mr. X extends his stay till 20th February 2020 to spend time with his family. In this situation, the Christmas and the New Year holiday break will be considered for computing the threshold as it is only a temporary interruption. But the period from 1st February to 20th February 2020 may be ignored as it relates to a period after conclusion of the period of assignment. Further, treaties provide for a testing period within which the threshold condition should be satisfied. That is, the threshold of 6 months should be met within a particular period. For example, the testing period may be within a fiscal year or within any 12-month period. Some treaties do not provide for a testing period. In such cases, it may be tricky to compute a threshold. The clause sometimes contains the phrase same or connected project and requires the activity of furnishing of services to be related to the same or connected project beyond a specified threshold. Some other treaties do not contain this phrase, and hence the threshold of number of days must be computed by considering all the projects that are carried on by the foreign entity in the source state. Another form of PE is the dependent agent PE. Let's say there is a US company engaged in manufacture and sale of some electronic products. US company has appointed an agent in India who helps with identification of customers, informing and educating the customer about the US company's products and its features, negotiating price, etc. Basis this, US company enters into contract with customers in India and completes the sale. Subject to satisfaction of certain additional conditions, the agent may create a dependent agent PE for the US company. Let's understand this in some more detail. A person acting on behalf of the foreign enterprise in the source state and in doing so habitually concludes contracts or plays a principal role in conclusion of contract on behalf of the foreign enterprises. Such contracts are routinely concluded without material modification by the foreign enterprise in its name, contract being for rendering services or transfer of ownership, granting the right to use or lease of a property of such foreign enterprise. Person for this purpose could be an individual or a legal entity. Even an employee or a subsidiary of the foreign enterprise, if it satisfies the above condition, could become dependent agent. This PE, however, is not triggered where the dependent agent is carrying on preparatory or auxiliary activities. Further, PE is not triggered where the agent is of an independent status and is acting in the ordinary course of his business. Independence here should be established both from legal and economic perspective, where the person's commercial activities for the enterprise are subject to detailed instruction or to comprehensive control. Such person cannot be regarded as independent of the enterprise. Further, where the agent acts exclusively or almost exclusively on behalf of the foreign enterprise or its closely related enterprise, then independence is hampered. If there is a conflict between the fixed place PE or the dependent agent PE, the dependent agent PE shall prevail over the fixed place PE. Please note that the language of this clause would vary from treaty to treaty. One should carefully read it before arriving at a conclusion. The discussion here is in respect of the dependent agent PE clause as appearing in the OECD Model Convention. That brings us to the end of this video. The PE clause is wide and envisages variety of scenarios where the threshold of nexus could be said to be exceeded so as to provide the source state the right of taxation. Under the fixed place PE, there is a requirement for physical place of business at the disposal of foreign enterprise with a reasonable degree of permanence. Under service PE, such physical space is not required, but what is envisaged is the physical presence of employees or other personnel for provision of services beyond a prescribed threshold in terms of number of days. Lastly, under the dependent agent PE, substantial role played by the dependent agent in respect of sales activity could give rise to a PE. We hope you found this useful. Do comment below and provide your feedback. Thank you so much for watching.